Holy cow! After 4 super fun months aboard this evil offering and many great questions from all of you, I want to share a little bit of what I've learned about this bike. This video's been a while in the making, so I hope you all enjoy it. Evil was kind enough to arrange for some EP level pricings. I'll be using this bike for a lot of Jensen USA sponsored videos. Speaking of Jensen sponsored this video and is a dealer for Evil bikes. Beyond Evil, Jensen is a leading online retailer for bicycles, parts, and accessories. I have a link in the video description below over to Jensen USA, and I'd really appreciate it if you do your bicycle shopping with Jensen, as anything you purchase from my link below will directly help support my videos. This right here is Evil Bikes HQ. How's it going? I gotta pick up a bike real quick.
Hey Cole, do we have Jeff Kendall-Weed's bike?
How are you doing, Cole?
Pretty good, how you doing, man?
Good. Pardon the vlogging, but yeah, it's my first time in here, so.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Conversation a couple months ago, I think, about getting you on one of our bikes.
Oh, I bought one yesterday. Sweet. I'm really just excited to see this.
Yeah, no, rip it open.
Cool. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to see you, Jack.
Indeed, see you later, Cole. Nice to meet you, Matt. And so it begins. First adventure and experience with an Evil bicycle. Let's get after it. In addition to Jensen, I'm also supported by P&W Components, Industry 9, and Shimano. I built the offering up with the Shimano XTM 8100 12-speed group set. I'm running 165mm crank arms, 32-tooth chainring, 203mm rotors, P&W Components handlebars, grips, stem, dropper remote, and dropper seat post. For a proper Super Boost spaced wheel set, I'm using the Industry 9 Enduro 315 carbon wheels with 32 aluminum spokes front and rear. You'll also notice in a lot of the earlier riding clips, I'm on a Marzocchi Z1 coil fork. Marzocchi was cool enough to give me this fork. Thank you, Marzocchi. I will definitely be doing a few follow-up videos focusing on this fork, so stay tuned for that. I've been riding this offering since February here in warm and sunny Washington. I'm on a size medium as I'm 5'8" or 174 centimeters and have stuck to size medium frames regardless of brand since around 2017. The wasabi green frame uses a Fox Float X2 rear shock. After I got past the artwork of skulls adorning the frame's cardboard box, I thought the bike's industrial design was quite striking. The chainstay is massive, the seat tube junction is well sculpted, and the head tube is stout. The main pivot is large, but the overall bulk of the swing arm shows that this bike is more ready to flex its muscle than the old high school quarterback who just got that convertible V6 Camaro. While a copywriter working to complete the brand's website will call the frame Wasabi Green, anyone who sees the bike in real life will call the frame black, as well as anyone who's seen Wasabi. For many of you wearing flannels and rocking the Northwest aesthetic, you'll be pleased with the stealth look of the bike. I felt like I had earned security credentials just by riding this thing. I took the offering on a massive road trip down to Arizona. I've ridden the bike in everything from desert to snow, to tacky loam, to terrifying kitty litter, and it's been a darn good bike. Between the coil fork and that X2 rear shock, the bike was definitely pretty soft and supple at the top of the stroke. Kind of think like a slice of mozzarella cheese you forgot in your kid's lunchbox last Friday. It's quite soft. Later on, I'd try to tune that out a bit, but for how wet and slippery things were back in February, that was kind of a nice sensation. Oh, and maybe I should wash out that lunchbox now. After the first few rides, I realized this is probably the quietest bike I've ever ridden, let alone own. I don't have much of a personal history with Evil bikes, nor a history of quiet bikes, but Evil Bikes has done quite a lot for mountain biking. Back in the early 2010s, Evil came out with the following, and then shortly after that, in 2016, the Reckoning, and these helped to reduce the stigma that 29ers had at the time. We all eventually realized that once a 29er was properly slack and fitted with a nice upright seat angle, the wheel size might even be described as the Goldilocks of the mountain bike world. Heck, all these bikes seem to have a degree in orthopedics, as they are full-on replacing the bee's knees with their on-trail capabilities. Now, you all asked me a bunch of great questions over on Instagram about this bike, and they're very relevant questions, but first, I want to give you my general impression of the bike. What I notice most on just about any bicycle is the geometry. On the Evil, it's a very fun geometry and playful in that it has a short top tube and a fairly steep head angle. This means it's really easy to handle in BMX-y scenarios where you're creating a lot of upwards trajectory by bunny hopping and pumping and all that. The rear end of the bike is kind of the opposite. There's a ton of traction on tap. In fact, it's actually a little tricky to get that rear wheel off the ground. While in Arizona, I added as many volume reducers as I could to that Float X2, and I backed off the low-speed rebound all the way, and I backed off the high-speed rebound all the way too. I have found that running a little bit of high-speed compression helps to avoid often bottoming the rear end, but this rear end feel is pretty glued to the ground. The offering reminds me of another bike that so many of you absolutely loved, the Ibis Mojo HD3. In this comparison, there are a couple notable differences, mainly the lower bottom bracket height on the offering and the feel of the Delta Link rear suspension.
I've gone up stair sets that aren't this steep. We've been hiking and pedaling for a while. Here we are, the glorious summit. Thank you all for joining us. 2 beers. I just found 2 Miller Lights up here. February 26, 18.
It's good until him.
Yeah, it's only 3 years old. Don't shake it up. That's gonna be some gross beer.
I really enjoyed the offering as it was in Arizona. However, I made a few little changes that really improved the feel of the bike through the rocky environment. I changed out the Z1 coil at 150 travel for a Fox 36 160 with the Grip 2 damper. With the air fork, I'm able to run a little bit of volume reduction to help it be more progressive, and with that Grip 2 damper, I'm able to add a bit more low speed to try to keep the fork riding higher in its stroke. Furthermore, over-forking the bike a little bit further helps slacken it out. Evil Bikes actually offers a 1.5 degree angle set, and I do have plans to try one of those soon here. However, the bike rides well enough that I'm not frantically doing all I can to get that new headset in there. I would love to try this bike out with a DPX2 shock, but unfortunately, those are all sold out, so I likely won't ever try one. I asked over on my Instagram page what you wanted to know about the offering, and you had some great questions. Let's dive into those. Yes, it's sufficiently playful and I can easily throw it around. That doesn't really mean much though, as I haven't really found any modern bike that I can't toss around, unless we're talking tandems or cargo bikes. Again, I'm a terrible bike reviewer, and your definition of playful might mean sketchy to me, or vice versa. So this question is extremely subjective. I run about 35 to 40% sag, and I run minimal rebound damping of both high and low speed. I'm running 4 clicks of high speed and low speed compression both. I added a volume reducer, and it looks like that's the max amount of volume reduction the X2 offers. If you're looking to smuggle anything across any borders, you might need to look for a bike with a more progressive feel to the suspension, as the volume reducers on this bike will take up all that space. The Orbea Occam is much more of a trail bike. The Occam had more bottom bracket clearance and an overall much lighter feel, even though I rode it with heavier wheels and tires. The Occam is also even steeper and shorter than the offering. If you're packing granola and bringing a map, bring the Occam to those backcountry trails.
Bit of a workout though.
But if you're sporting a full face and a lift ticket, go with the offering. The Yeti has the most playful feeling suspension, as the DPX2 just feels bang on with a very light internal tune and a nice amount of progression that sets in properly in the mid-stroke. The Ibis Ripmo with the Fox X2 shock is fine, though not what I describe as super poppy. When the bike is upgraded over to the DPX2, it's almost as poppy as the Yeti. The offering is less poppy than both, but the short front end makes up for that, so it's really not that huge of a difference. It just gets that poppiness in a different way.
Oh, that's not the trail.
Sort of like microwaving your popcorn. Instead of dusting off the old Cuisinart, plugging it in. While a bunch of these bikes are Dave Weigel designed, the offering feels very different than the Ibis version of the DW.
Oh, it's rowdy.
I haven't yet ridden a Pivot any significant distance, so I can't comment on that. However, on the Evil, the rear end is more active in all scenarios than the Ibis iteration of DW Link. The Evil has more traction, but it's harder to get off the ground. The Ibis is somewhat more neutral, but the Evil responds well to a wheels on the ground riding style. The offering does compare to a few of my other bikes. My personal favorite bike to date, the Rocky Mountain Altitude, is over 25 millimeters longer than the offering, with 20 millimeters more travel and back, so it's not really an apt comparison. Keep in mind, I'm a terrible bike reviewer, and my own opinions probably aren't going to mesh with most trail riders out there. But this is my video, and you came to hear my thoughts, so that's what I'm going to share with you. The offering is a really fun bike, and it has a cool place, and it really excels in flow trails of all places. That shorter top tube distance makes it a very fun bike to jump. For climbing, I prefer tech climbs with lots of trials moves because I'm just into that sort of thing. But for seated pedaling climbing, I do feel more comfortable in the longer top tube position of the Yeti. In terms of suspension, the offering pedals just fine. You'll notice tire drag a lot more, or heck, a poor pedal stroke, before you'll notice the suspension doing anything super funky. Wait a second, rider input matters more than bike design? Yep, these are bicycles, not motorcycles, not cars. With the Evil's shorter top tube, it makes it pretty easy to just randomly bunny hop and send it into rocky sections. The rear end is available to erase any mistakes, but at the same time, the shorter wheelbase means you gotta stay on your toes. I had a pretty big crash, Logan had another pretty big crash when riding this bike. I'm not sure what it is, if it's the lower bottom bracket or what, but I have hit the dirt quite a few times on the offering. Now that was before going over to the 2.6 size tires. Oddly enough, the Evil website does not claim 2.6 size tire compatibility. Go figure.
Holy cow! The hikers that came up are like, dude, we just heard someone eat massive. Was that you?
After saying goodbye to the Arizona cactus spines and the little rocks that were constantly embedded in my socks, I got the bike pretty well dialed in for Pacific Northwest riding. With the extra height of the 160 Travel 36 fork, along with a lot of low-speed compression, and the front end was riding at a much better height for my style. I really enjoyed the 2.6 size tires for both the higher bottom bracket and that extra bit of traction. I'll be sure to do an updated video once I do get an angle set in here, and perhaps another shock option will become available as well. The X2 is fine, but I just can't help but wonder if something with a lighter valving and a smaller overall volume might just suit my style a little bit better. But regardless, I'm planning a bunch of big rides on this bike, and as the snow is starting to melt, some of my favorite trails will be open again soon. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed filming and putting it all together. At the moment, I'm really happy having both the Offering and the Yeti to complement each other. I haven't ridden my Ripmo in a few months here, but I can't wait to get that thing put together as well and really keep going back to back on all these bikes simply because they feel so different. While I say one bike might feel more comfortable for one aspect of riding than the other, there's definitely places where the opposite is true. Where these bikes feel so different, once I get kind of tired of riding the same trails over and over and over again, I can grab the other bike and try it out again and it feels yet different. I also think this makes you a better bike rider to try a few different types of bikes consistently. I want to give a big thanks to Jensen USA for making all of this possible. Thank you, Jensen. I have a link in the description below over to Jensen USA, and anything you purchase at Jensen will help keep me making videos. Thanks in advance. Beyond Jensen, I want to give a thanks to P&W Components, Industry 9, and Shimano. Now, I couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for all of you. Thank you for sitting here and watching my videos. If you did enjoy it, please leave me a friendly comment down below. Hit the red subscribe button. I know we've been talking about bikes in this video, but I also want to mention something pretty simple. If you're enjoying mountain biking, take a moment and join your local mountain bike advocacy group. That's the only voice we have as mountain bikers to ensure our continued trail access. With how popular the sport's gotten, yes, we've enjoyed a bike industry boom, but we also got to make sure we don't lose what we've already got in terms of trail accessibility. Take a moment, join your local trail group, and see if you can help them out in any unique way. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.